Hello fellow wormers, this is Landro off of LandroeGaming on my Druid, Shiftster. This is my first video for quite some time. I've been on holiday and I've been moving, so I apologise for the lack of activity on this channel. And this video is basically an Arathi Basin. It's my first proper PvP session since 5.3. This BG actually followed some arena that I was doing. It's my first 3v3 arena since Mop here actually, and it was quite an eye-opener. I was playing far too offensive, and it's actually led me to have a little crack at doing a helpful hints and tips video for 3v3 arena. It's really crazy how much burst is going around at the moment. I'm mostly male volant PvP gear as well, which didn't help matters entirely. I'm farming pretty extensively for the full tyrannical. I've been slacking, I'll be honest with you, I have been slacking. So it was an experience, it was an eye-opener. I was with a couple of friends of mine PvPing in the arena, and basically I failed miserably. And doing this BG after made me realise just how rusty I am in PvP in general. So it's going to be a bit of a stint now, really, in the next few weeks to get back into the swing of things. Now, there's moments like this where several people are trying to gank you, that it's good to be a druid because there's a lot of escape mechanics and mechanisms that you've got at your disposal. Displace a beast away from solar beam. Remember, it's worth using displacer after you've been vortex back in, because most druids will have the vortex beam macro nowadays that will mean that if you displace her out, which is a good gap giver, you'll get dragged straight back in. So it's better to kind of like work your way out normally and then displace her to get your distance that you need. I found that survivability in general wasn't too bad in this BG, but I think that's more to do with the gear of my opponents more rather than any particularly well played play on my part. As I said, the 3v3 arena was an eye-opener for me in terms of the burst. I was shocking. I was really shocking just to see by going offensive and trying to get a cyclone off to enable my team to get on the offensive, and I'd let my partner drop just a little bit. And before you know it, boom, they're dead. But there we go. There's a moment there which is quite interesting. This is something I've been utilising quite a bit lately. If you see a mage pop in their Ring of Frost, it's quite good if the opposition are trying to avoid it, just to typhoon them straight into it. They waste trinkets, they'll waste cooldowns, possibly just sit there in a stun for the duration of their demon form, which is what happened in that instance. I found generally it was quite enjoyable coming back to PvP. Obviously I've missed it greatly with all the things that have been happening in my life, which has meant I haven't really played WoW as much as I should have. So it was good to get back into the swing of things, and Arathi Basin is probably one of my favourite BGs. I really do like it. There's been quite a lot of changes with patch 5.3, some interesting mechanic changes, so it was an eye-opener from that perspective. Not too much change from a druid point of view. PvP in general had some pretty crazy changes in terms of the 65% base resilience, which I thought was actually going to be a good change. But what it actually means is you get quite a lot of people now who can go into a BG arena or PvP in full PvE gear and be pretty hard to kill, but dish out pretty insane damage. So you've got people that can play ultra offensive in terms of gear. Gear gets scaled down to a 496 eye level, which you'd think would balance it out, but it doesn't actually quite work like that. Firstly and foremost, there's PvPers like myself who've got full male volant gear, which is actually now worse than scaled down PvE gear, even of Raid Finder standard, which obviously irks you a little bit. Also, the other thing that has made a huge dent in, or a huge difference in terms of the amount of damage that's going around at the moment, is the fact that people can go in their PvE gear and with the PvE set bonuses. Now, anybody who does PvE will know that set bonuses can be hugely powerful. If you can then suddenly, I mean, there was instances in some of the expansions, I think the end of Wrath of the Lich King, when the heroic PvE 4 set for Shadow Priest was insane. So there's things like that which make meant that you could kind of like go into PvP with epic PvE kind of utility to your spells and your gear. In Wrath of the Lich King, obviously, you sacrifice the resilience side of things. Now, with the baseline 65% resilience, what that means is people can go in the PvE gear, and I think that does need fixing. I personally would like to see the PvE gear scaled down to 476 eye level to match Malevolent, so it's still advantageous for people to grind the Honor to get the PvP gear and to make them a little bit better. I thoroughly agree with the baseline resilience. It has brought more people into PvP, of that there is no doubt. People that wouldn't necessarily otherwise PvP, and that's always a good thing to get more people playing this side of the game, especially from a PvP's perspective. Quicker queues, more variety, more different types of gameplay. But when they're coming in almost a little bit OP, and there's a sort of a word or terminology going around the forums at the moment, which is the Dragon Slayers, the PvE people that are coming into PvP and are a little bit over, and are actually kind of better geared than the PvP is, and that doesn't really make sense. So there needs to be some sort of reworking of it. I'm not 100% sure how they're going to change it, or whether they are going to change it. There's rumours that they might disable PvE set bonuses in PvP, which will help a little bit, but I still think that the gear is getting scaled too high. Even though it's getting scaled down, it's getting too high in comparison to PvP gear. Anyway, grumbles aside, changes have happened, things are happening in-game now which are a little bit different. We all have to adapt, as we always do. Druids are still not in a fantastic state. I mean, Disc Priests are obviously right up there, and it does. I keep wanting to go back to playing Landro, but I've invested the time in getting the gear into Shiftster now, and I don't have the time to re-gear another ult, even though they have made changes to make that a little bit easier. So I'm going to stick at Shiftster. Hopefully Druids will get a few changes in 5.4, which I hear they are, and they get some very interesting changes to the mechanics of some of the tier talents. Things such as Nature's Swiftness possibly becoming a baseline talent, and other items in that talent, or in that level of talents, then becoming an option. Canary Ward's getting a huge buff, and some other things are changing as well. So, you know, eyes open. 5.4, they probably will address some of the little bit of issues we do have remaining in terms of PvP. I found that at present it is so vital to keep your hots up. I found, particularly going back to 3v3, and sorry I'll harp on about this because it wasn't experience. I assumed I was getting semi-decent at PvP until I was getting smashed in the face or seeing my partners dying very quickly in 3v3. That I realised I have to actually work on my playstyle a little bit more. But what I found was if your dots are off, then you will die. There's just no two ways about it. So you've got to make sure that your hots are kept up as much as possible on the focus target. Now it's obviously a little bit tricky to know who's the focus target in threes. You need to communicate, and somebody needs to shout to you when they're getting focused. That will help you massively. There's always little indicators. You can kind of notice when things like dots suddenly appear on a new player. That tends to mean that the switch is going to happen, so you start getting your hots up. Make sure you get rejuvenation on ASAP and start switching to life bloom. I've kind of contemplated flipping out one of my glyphs, the Barkskin glyph for the life bloom glyph, which means your life bloom stacks remain upon switching. I think that might be a viable thing to do in threes. I don't tend to get focused very much, and if I do, I've got cooldowns at my disposal to keep myself up. So I think that probably the life bloom glyph and being able to switch life bloom if a target change occurs is going to be pretty vital. So I'm going to give that a try next time I do some 3v3s and try some reglyphing, and certainly set up my UI to be a bit better. But as for the BG that I'm in at the moment, it's kind of a combination of some quite okay play on my part, some ninja caps on my part, and then some absolutely horrendous, hideous, looking back at this video and I just think, what on earth am I doing now? There's a little moment here where myself and this paladin friend capture Lumbermill for the Alliance, and at this point I'm looking around to see where to go next, and I decide to kind of sit and just wait. Over on the left of my screen, I should have noticed that mage coming around the corner in a moment. You'll sort of see him coming over the bridge. There he is. And I kind of should have really kept focus on him, because look where he's going. He's coming towards me. I don't really pay any attention. I kind of looking at the meters like an absolute noob. Just basically seeing what's going on, thinking I got a quiet moment, and I didn't really follow the mage. Now what I see over to the right hand side is some incoming from that direction. So obviously my focus changes to that side. Now what I do really silly here is leave the flag. Now there's rule 101 of PvP, stay by the flag. And I broke that rule, and that's a little bit of rustiness, a little bit of inexperience on my part. And as you can see, just on the corner of my screen, you'll see the mage popping out of invisibility, which he used to get up without me noticing him, and he ninjas the flag. Dope. And that's with some massive disadvantage. And it could have cost us the BG, so yeah, I openly admit to my noobness in that instance. Yeah, there's a few times that happens in this BG, and I'm really frustrated. There's something that I pride myself on is focusing on the flag, making sure it doesn't get ninja capped. So yeah, we kind of had to work around the mistakes of mine, and luckily enough we had a relatively good team. We had some good DPSs that were in this BG with us, and they pretty much carried the group in terms of ensuring that we were enabled to win it. Interesting point of note there, you can see the solar beam wasn't followed up with the vortex, and that in that instance you can displace her out of it, and it's huge. And if you have got a free moment, then cyclone, even if there's like if it's just DPS, you're normally instinctive to cyclone a healer because you want to control the healers, you want to stop the heals getting off, you want to put the pressure on the team. But if there's 3 DPS about, don't be afraid to cyclone. I mean, it can be the difference between a kill and a not a kill, and it can put enough pressure on to, or enable your team to put enough pressure on to get the kill. So yeah, don't be too scared to get those cyclones out of there. But at the same time, you don't have to do things like I do. I didn't see the rogue. Again, I'm cyclone, and I cyclone straight into the rogue's opener. That's just a horrendous play on my part. Again, the sort of thing where if you communicate a bit better, or if you're in an actual Skype conversation, it wouldn't happen. In random BGs, sometimes your awareness is a little bit out of sync and you do silly things like that, so a little bit of a slap on the wrist to me there. Lesson learned, I'll try and remember if there's a rogue about not to needlessly cyclone people. It's very frustrating playing a melee DPS class, especially rogue, when you get the opener out and suddenly somebody cyclones, it just infuriates you. So yeah, have to be aware of that. Going back to this little defense of lumber mill I've been trying to do for the last couple of minutes, you'll see here how nuts it is and how bad I played in this, because not only did I allow the ninja cap to happen before by even Mr. Mage coming up again, I even allow a similar sort of thing to happen here. I think probably not entirely my fault in this instance, and you'll see how this little bit of footage plays out and see if you agree or not. Comment in the video. Assumed Mage was going into invisibility at this point, so get away from the flag in case he opens with a Frost Nova and tries to attack you rather than ninja the flag, which is what he tries to do. So as you can see, without nameplates on, which is something I forgot to do in this BG, it's a little bit harder to notice when somebody is ninjaing. He's quite clever, he hides in the flag. But I get the Typhoon off, and Mr. Druid comes out of stealth as well now, opening up on a Cyclone to get a bit of breathing space. I get cycloned, not a problem here, nobody's trying to attack the flag. And then a solar beam. Now it's a solar beam vortex, so I get vortex back in, silenced, but I'm pretty sure I get my hurricane off in time here to interrupt. Apparently not. Apparently not. So they still got a ninja cap. Again, horrendously bad play on my part. It gets worse, believe it or not, it actually gets worse. So focus of course switches to keeping myself up at this point. Druid pops his offensive abilities, so obviously Cyclone is the thing to do there. He gets out of that with a trinket. I'm kind of like hovering around the flag thinking, is there a chance to get a ninja cap in here? I'm just kind of just waiting, hoping that somebody comes and bails out my noobness. And this is probably the worst thing I've done. I walk right to the edge. I tried to displace her back on, apparently it doesn't work, but yeah, kudos to the Druid that blew me off the edge. Horrendous position on my part. They got the ninja cap. It actually turned out to be not the end of the world, because it leads me to getting away from Lumber Mill. It probably we weren't going to get the recap there, so it forced me to go to a different part of the BG. So the less said about my expedition up to Lumber Mill, the better. I think at this point I realised that maybe the monk that I was hitting there might have been a bot of some description. So you go into preservation mode again and just try and get away from the damage, keep yourself alive. It's interesting with Druids. That's pretty much the thing I like most about them, is the utility to get away and to get distance and to get from point to point very quickly. And it's the one thing that doesn't really necessarily apply so much in Arena, because Arena is a much more condensed environment. and it's probably why I do a little bit better in BGs than I do in Arena from my early dealings with Druids. Obviously, as I learn the class, I'm sure things will change, but I seem to do better in BGs, and I think that's because of the potential to get away from danger and to force gaps and to make people change their focus. I'm not so good at doing that in Arena, so that's something I've got to work on. But in general, I think this BG, as I said, it wasn't necessarily the best one I've played. But like I said, Arathi Basins are just so much fun. I think they are like this and Wolfsong Gulch are probably my two favourite BGs. I quite like some of the others in terms of they offer different types of mechanics, but these, I don't know what it's about them. There's just something there that I enjoy playing. And in this little bit of footage, basically what I'm doing is just thinking about trying to CC anybody that isn't a target. It's hard to judge. Sometimes I kind of go on the mantra if somebody's at full HP. That's the thing I do in random BGs. That's the target that I will try and cyclone. Because you can be relatively safe in the knowledge that they might not be the ones getting focused. There might be a switch occurring, and in which case you can't really foresee that. But I basically work off the mantra that I will go for a healer unless the healer is the target, and I will go for a DPS at full health unless they are obviously becoming a switch target. I try and symbiosis mages at the start of BGs if there's any about. Ice block is huge, and I've of course created a macro for a cancel aura so you can ice block literally just to clear a snare or a fear, your dots or anything like that. And I've got it built into one button so it casts ice block, and it's obviously cancels aura of ice block. And there's a few other little macros I've got now. I've got a direct deterrence macro because of playing with a hunter. So this rather thing, Symbiosis is an interesting spell. It's one of the spells I've got more Symbiosis macros than any other, and that's because of obviously the fact that it changes depending on who you give Symbiosis to. But generally in random BGs and particularly in, just notice there's another moment there where I let a ninja occur, and it infuriates me even watching it back now. Going back to ice block, I will try and target a mage for my symbiosis for ice block because I think it's the most useful out of the spells that are available most of the time. But yeah, let another ninja come here. The annoying thing was looking back to that video, I think it was the same mage all the time. He was very, very clever because he stands right on the flag. And because I've got nameplates on, very often I wasn't noticing his nameplate there, and that's just like such shockingly noobish on my part. A little bit more enjoyable there, cycloning as he's trying to sort of rocket boots away. That's quite nice. And actually, I think it's probably a little bit of frustration at what he was doing. I actually got a bit personal with this guy now. Could have just let him go away and stayed with the flag, but I wanted him to die. You know, I wasn't going to do the killing, so I'm just letting Mr. Hunter friend here do the killing whilst I snare and slow and stop him getting away, that kind of thing. Those things that Druids are pretty good at. Yeah, moral victory to me there, possibly, but I think skill victory to the mage who got another ninja cap on right on my nose. Oh, yeah. Not good, not good. Try and do my traditional little bit of heroics here. A little bit too late, and the person died, and then suddenly I'm thinking, let's get out of here, and of course, utilising some of my abilities to get away ASAP. Probably didn't have to use my trinket there, in all honesty, but I didn't want to die. I did not want to die, particularly after such a kamikaze move on my part. Just have a little swig of coffee. It's a hugely long BG. Just thinking now, it's actually gone quite a while. It's about 20 minutes in total. So need to wet the whistle, nattering non-stop over the top of this. Oh, trip in France. Quick story. Firstly, my partner's dad runs a B&B over there, so we lived the life of Riley. We had a great time, and I drank so much wine, lovely red wine. Brought a load back with me because, of course, the price of wine in France is just ridiculous. It's literally 20% of the cost of it is in the UK. So that was good. Oh, just quick interruption here. This is a moment that I enjoy, saving this shaman here who was on the verge of death, and I managed to just keep him up. And eventually we turn this little scenario around where we do get captured down here. But you go back to my story of France, lots of cheese, lots of wine, lots of camembert and blue cheeses and lovely French food. And I got back and I played football for the first time in probably about 3 weeks because of the move in France and whatnot. I haven't played for a little while, and I was running around in the sports centre because it was a five-a-side session, and you could literally feel little globules of cheese seeping through my through my skin as a little sweat. It was a real eye-opener how quickly I'd gotten unfit and how the life that I was leading, particularly whilst I was in France, meant that my fitness suffered. So it leads me on to the next thing I want to talk about. I recently started going out mountain biking. We live in a great part of the world for that. There's a local organisation called Monkey Breaks who do tours around the countryside, and there's off-road, wonderful hills, wonderful downhill sections. It's a friend of mine who runs a company, and we're going to get together and do a video promoting his company via LandroeGaming. And what I'm going to do is give away a free training session with Monkey Breaks, including free accommodation. And this will be able to be won via an upcoming video. We're going to get some footage with wonderful head cams and stuff like that of our next outing across the mid-Wales countryside, a place called Happy Valley. And it is happy most of the time, apart from the steep climb that is about halfway through the ride. It's about a 16-mile route, so it's not too bad, but with it being off-road, it's quite intense. So yeah, the competition will relate directly to that video. Oh, do you know what? Another ninja cap? Oh, I did play so bad in this BG. Anyway, I digress. The video will focus on it'll be a mountain bike video. It'll be labelled. It'll be the final episode, episode 10 of the first season of LandroeGaming's new little venture of episodes. I will be relaunching with season 2, episode 1, which will focus a typhoon montage and a few other little bits and bobs. And the last episode of season 1 will feature this competition. Now I will promote it a lot better, so hopefully my subscribership and my viewership will go up in relation to the wonderful prize that we're offering, which probably values about £200, I guess. You get 3 outings in total, and it's a long weekend break. And all the information will be in the final episode of season 1 of LandroeGaming. So thank you for all the views, comments, for the new subscribers, for the people that are sending me messages, that are whispering me in game. It really motivates me, so keep doing that, please. It's fantastic to read, and it's good motivation. Keep well, keep healthy, keep fit. Get back to healthy ways like I'm going to do now in the upcoming months, and I shall see you in my next video, which will be live in about 2 weeks' time, and it will include some wonderful hair-raising experiences of me going down a hill like a rock. So thanks for watching. Landro out.